A reflection on our asynchronous lesson. Hello, my name is Alisson Camacho and my classmates are Katherine Díaz, Emerson Castillo, and Oscar Mora. To start, we are going to show you a video. It would be only a section of the video and not all the video because only this section has relevant information for our presentation. This video shows the situation that some students are living with the internet connection or without the internet connection.
Your high school graduation has been canceled. How do you feel about that?
Honestly, truly am sad about it. That was the landmark for me. That was going to be like the push. It was going to be like a big exhale for me.
There has been no exhale for Bryant. Since her Los Angeles high school moved to online learning, she's worried about falling behind.
Do you have a spotty internet connection?
Yes.
Bryant said her internet often freezes in the middle of lessons. We witnessed her spotty connection firsthand.
Did you freeze? Oh, I think you froze. Darn it. Hang on.
Bryant says she's still logging on and doing her work, but that's not the case for all students in the Los Angeles Unified School District. The district says for the first 2 weeks of online learning, 15,000 high school students did not log on at all. That has since been cut by about 2/3.
Here's your charger.
Many districts scrambled to get students devices like laptops and Wi-Fi after schools closed, but there's a lot of catching up to do. Nearly children do not live in homes with an internet broadband connection.
Class, how you feel? Ready to return.
Dallas teacher Andrea Bazemore works at a school with a lot of students from low-income households.
I had a student who was doing her reading lesson and we were on such a great momentum, but we had to stop about 10-20 minutes in because her data had run out. And her mom said, hey, I gotta stop. I need to go somewhere with Wi-Fi.
As we could see in the video, some students have several problems with their internet connection. It happens to them that their internet freezes or stops working for some periods of time, and others do not have access at all. One person might think that now that we live in a world full of technology, everyone has access to technological devices and internet. But this is not the reality, and that means that millions of students are being left behind. Several parents and students are really worried because they have a bad internet connection or no internet connection at all. This situation causes that the students miss their classes and there exists the possibility that they will fail the course. Also, they are not learning anything. There are many ways that a lack of internet access can affect students' academic performance. Students without internet cannot connect with teachers or classmates, do independent research, or get online homework help. For families, not having internet access can mean missing out on information or losing out on a direct line of communication with the schools and teachers. One of the biggest problems faced by students without internet access at home is their inability to complete homework, because if they are not being explained the topics, for them it's really hard to do their homework well because they don't even know how to do it sometimes. According to Lynch, 2017, up to 70% of teachers assign homework that requires the use of the internet. About 65% of the students use the internet to complete homework, which includes doing research, submitting assignments, emailing teachers, and collaborating online with classmates. For the students that do not have internet at home, that can mean that they may fall behind, or they might spend hours looking for free Wi-Fi access points. Schools also expect parents to be able to log on. Teachers use email lists to update parents on field trips, class activities, and more. School websites may be the only place for parents to find valuable information. Even grades are going online because in theory, this allows parents to have an easier access to their child's grades. But for parents that do not have access to internet, this is not the case. In the United States, there is also a racial gap when it comes to internet access. 88% of white households and 92% of Asian households with school-age children have high-speed internet access. On the other hand, only 72% of Black and Hispanic households with school-age children have high-speed internet access. In Costa Rica, 45,000 homes do not have access to internet. What the Ministry of Education is doing is that the professors have to send all the assignments to the school's administration, and then the school prints these materials and give them to the students when they come for the food they are also given.
Okay, so as already Alisson explained, this is the situation that many students and educators are facing right now due to COVID-19. That is why today we're taking some time to reflect, especially on asynchronous lessons, using our lesson as our example to analyze the difficulties we experienced, the things that worked out well, the things that didn't work out that well, and how we could improve our overall lesson so as to recreate it in a better way. So to start off, here are, well, here's the list of the objectives we planned for this analysis. So, well, our general objective is to reflect upon our overall experience as teachers when giving asynchronous lessons. Specifically, and as I already mentioned, our insights from our lesson and the advantages and disadvantages that we faced during the process of creating this lesson. Also, how COVID-19 is challenging us to adapt to these new situations if we really want to thrive in this new virtual world. So our specific objectives are these three. And well, the first one is to reflect on our asynchronous lesson, its weaknesses and strengths. This based on the feedback we got from our classmates and the professor, as well as our personal knowledge in order to improve our future teaching lessons. The second one, we want to identify some of the challenges that online teaching gives educators and students and how they differ with classroom learning, which is the methodology that we were used to. By doing so, we can analyze how these aspects influence our lesson. And finally, we want to determine what we learned from this experience and how it was quite different from what we might have thought for a traditional lesson. Also, how the future is now uncertain, so we have to get ready to face whatever comes in the future. So, well, the theme is clear, is asynchronous lessons during this pandemic, and the structure that we are using is pretty simple. We divided our content into four questions, which are first, what went well? Second, what were the difficulties and weaknesses? Third, what can we improve? And fourth, how would you teach the lesson again? So, well, we hope you enjoyed this presentation, and let's get started.
Hello there, I'm Oscar Mora, and I'd like to highlight some of the strengths we found in our asynchronous lesson on daily routines. Our target audience was 7th graders. Riggs and Linder, in their article Actively Engaging Students in Asynchronous Online Classes, state that active learning activities and pedagogical strategies can look different in online learning environments, particularly in asynchronous courses when students are not interacting with the instructor or with each other in real time. This statement was particularly important to us as a group when we created our lesson because we knew two things. Number one, we had to make our lesson entertaining. Number two, it also had to be effective so that we could make sure students learn and achieve the learning outcomes that we had proposed in our lesson plan. Now, online lessons, specifically asynchronous lessons, are challenging. We knew this because we were experiencing it at the same time with our TESOL methods class with Professor Veronica, and we're still learning from it. So we did some prior research and looked at online tools that we thought could facilitate the learning and teaching of our lesson. We knew that if we were having fun creating all these online materials, students could as well have fun completing the tasks that they were asked to complete. The lesson plan we submitted was very successful. The professor highlighted that it had a logical sequence and it was coherent. She also mentioned that the learning activities were appropriate for the topic and that the proficiency level was also appropriate, which was one of our main goals. There were some suggestions regarding the timing given to tasks because it seemed like it wasn't enough time to complete such tasks. So we went back and changed it and we distributed time successfully after all. We actually pretended to be students, and I even asked my brother, who is 13, and my nephew, who is 14, to complete the tasks, and after they completed the tasks, we would consider how long they would take, and this helped us make a decision regarding timing. Doing this definitely helped us realize that we needed to make a few modifications, which I think is what great teachers do. Regarding the feedback received by our classmates, we would like to say that we really appreciated their comments as they definitely help us improve our future asynchronous lessons. We received 5 responses in total, and these are some of the results. Number 1 refers to how interactive our asynchronous lesson was, and 60% of students marked it as interactive. Number 2 makes reference to how useful our materials were. 20% said that it was somewhat useful. The other 20%, it was very useful. And the remaining 20% rated it as extremely useful. So that was a total of 60% of students who said that it was useful. Number 3 makes reference to how clear our instructions were, and 60% of students marked it as clear. Number 4 is 100%, and this makes reference to the time allotted for each task. So 100% of students marked it as more than enough time. The next one would be number 5, and in this one we have 80% of students saying that we were very effective and willing to clarify doubts. Number 6, it's regarding how helpful our activities were to the overall understanding. 40% of students marked it as extremely helpful. The other 40% marked it as somewhat helpful, and the remaining 20% as very helpful. Number 7, 60% of students said that it was not so difficult to complete the asynchronous lesson, which was very positive. And number 8, 80% of students marked the lesson as good overall, and 20% as excellent. So overall, this was very positive feedback from our classmates, and I think that it was very, very nice to hear it because it motivates us to continue to do amazing asynchronous lessons. In our personal opinion, some of our strengths in the asynchronous lesson itself were creating a sense of connection or rapport with the students by introducing ourselves in the video, using our own pictures, real voices, giving the students a personalized attention if needed with our online office hours, and the WhatsApp group, and personalizing the videos for them. We also consider their proficiency level and try to also make the lesson appealing for this particular population. We play with the fonts, the arrangement of videos. The instructions were given using avatars and characters that made the topic engaging and fun. Learning to use technology to teach a class could be described as challenging, interesting, frustrating at times, but it also made us feel like we were proud because due to the current situation with COVID-19, we learned to teach in a totally different platform with the same goal, making sure that learning happens and making sure that this learning is effective. This made us, as teachers, more up to date with current technology and materials that we could do online. And it made students more autonomous and independent learners, which is an aspect that Larsen-Freeman and Anderson highlight in their book, Techniques and Principles in Language Teaching. We knew very clearly in our minds that we didn't want the lesson to be boring and tiring for students, especially 7th graders. And that's why we made an extra effort to make the lesson as interactive as possible with the tools that we had at the moment. Larsen-Freeman and Anderson, in their book Techniques and Principles in Language Teaching, express that there are 2 main ways to think about technology for language learning. Technology as providing teaching resources and technology as providing enhanced learning experiences. We think that as a group, we were able to implement technology in both ways. In fact, we made use of technology, specifically Voki.com, iMovie, YouTube, Canva, Genially, Vukaroo, Powtoon, Google Forms, and the main platform, Google Classroom. We wanted to make sure that the lesson was entertaining and student-friendly so that the task could be completed smoothly and with a logical order, making sure that students were actually learning and enjoying the process. Technology was used as material, but also as the means for student-teacher interaction in which we were able to assess students' progress and the students were able to acquire knowledge and apply it in the tasks. Another thing that we considered that went well was the exercise of the 4 linguistic skills: listening, speaking, reading, and writing, and enhancing the cultural skill in which students had to do some research depending on the character they chose. I think that we all as a group were good at all the macro skills, but we did have a preference for one specific language skill. So what we did as a group is that we divided each skill and created material and activities that we thought could assess that skill in the best way possible. At the end, we all reviewed those activities as a whole and agreed that they were effective for our learning outcomes, and we also gave each other feedback. We definitely made sure that our learning outcomes were coherent with the tasks. Overall, our strengths in the asynchronous lesson could be summarized as A, having effective time management, B, effective use of technological resources such as interactive and personalized videos, and C, effective use of activities and tasks that enhance the 4 macro-linguistic skills: reading and writing, listening and speaking, and the cultural aspect, of course. As a group and as teachers, we definitely feel very proud of what we have achieved with this lesson, and it is a great first step to creating new and more effective asynchronous lessons in the near future. We were very excited to complete this activity, and we're still learning from it, and we're very glad that we can apply this later on in our career.
Hello, my name is Katherine Díaz. This asynchronous lesson has a lot of things that went well, as Oscar already discussed. But we also faced some difficulties and weaknesses, which I will be explaining to you right now. First of all, I'll explain the problems we had in our lesson plan. We made a virtual meeting to see which ideas we had regarding the activities that we wanted to include in our lesson. Clearly, we needed to talk about what we were going to do. One difficulty that we encountered in this part of the teaching process was that because we were 4 teachers with one 80 minutes lesson, we had to come to a consensus in all the activities that we were going to implement in our asynchronous lesson. This was difficult with some activities, and we had to discuss a lot to agree with everything that was going to be made. When we received our feedback from Professor Veronica, we checked everything that she suggested for us to change. For the main task, she graded us with the following statement: demonstrates sound knowledge of task activities. The task is in accordance with the lesson's pre-task and warm-up. Sufficient time allotted to the task. This, below the high grade statement, demonstrates expertise in task activity. The task in accordance with the lesson's pre-task and warm-up, and it enhances students' L2 skills. Sufficient time allotted to the task. This also happened with our post-task activity. Also, the general comment that the professor made to our lesson plan was, the lesson plan is very good. It's coherent, it has a logical sequence, and the learning activities are appropriate for the topic and the proficiency level. It is not clear, though, if the time allotted to the main task is suitable, as there is no information on how long it would take to watch the video. You also need to specify the length of the text students are going to read and how long it may take them to read it. The closure activity is good, but 3 minutes may not be enough time for what you want to achieve. A clear weakness that our lesson plan had was that it wasn't clear enough about all the activities that we wanted to do with our students. We didn't receive a perfect score in the lesson plan, which made us sadden a little, but we knew that that was going to happen. A perfect lesson plan will never exist. We will always have something that needs to be improved, but the important thing is that we learned from it. Anyway, that's what we are studying for, to learn to be better teachers. Continuing with our asynchronous class, we had to prepare the materials for it. This was a part that, personally, excited me a lot. I was ready to prepare all my materials, and I was very happy with the things that I did, but once I finished them and we checked them, we found out that they had a lot of things that needed to be improved. I'm sure that this is not only my case, because we had to make a lot of changes in everyone's materials. Part of being a teacher is knowing that things would always have to be improved in one way or another. And even though we had to modify and record again some videos, we were happy with the final product, and we were very excited to show them to our students. Another difficulty that we faced during the preparation of materials was that even though Google Classroom, which is the platform that we chose to do our asynchronous lesson, was very easy to use, not all of us knew how to do everything in there. Some of us had to investigate and learn how to record a video, how to upload a video, how to create a Google form, among others. This took a lot of time and effort, but it helped us achieve what we wanted as a final product for our students. Also, When we were checking the rubric that the professor was going to use to grade us, we found out that we had to include a cultural aspect in our lesson, which we didn't know, and the professor also forgot to tell us to include it. This mistake had to be fixed by changing an activity to include a cultural aspect, which involved a lot of time to fix it. Culture is always important to teach. According to the findings on Genc and Bada's research, a culture class is significantly beneficial in terms of language skills, raising cultural awareness, changing attitudes towards native and target societies, and contribution to the teaching profession. Foreign languages should not be taught alone. Culture is an aspect that should always be present in class, and that's why we had to modify our lesson. When our lesson was ready and the professor helped us to send it for students to do it, we found some weaknesses that we didn't perceive in our project before. First, one of the fonts that we used strangely changed depending on the computer or cell phone that the student used, which could make learners have difficulties reading some instructions. Second, because we were starting to experiment with the creation of videos, one of them that was uploaded on YouTube was private, which had to be modified for students to do the lesson. Also, because our students were our classmates for the methodologist for English teaching module, not a lot of people could do the lesson, so we didn't receive a lot of feedback about our activities. Regarding the received feedback, I would like to highlight two of the questions that we made. The first one is, how useful were the materials used in the lesson? Where 40%, 2 out of 5 comments, mentioned that they were not so useful. We consider this happened because some of the activities were for students to complete by themselves. So we would not have a specific way to know that the students completed the exercise or not. Asynchronous lessons are difficult because of that. The teacher doesn't really know if students are going to complete everything. Another question from the feedback survey was, how helpful were the activities in the lesson to your overall understanding of the topics? Where 40%, 2 out of 5 comments, said that they were somewhat helpful, and the other 60% mentioned that they were helpful. We consider this happened because some activities could be boring because they didn't involve a particular topic that might be of interest to the students, such as sports, video games, or something related to those topics. Now, to sum up, we faced some difficulties and weaknesses in our asynchronous lesson regarding the initial lesson plan, the preparation of the lesson, and the lesson itself. In the lesson plan, we made mistakes that took points off from our grade, but they helped us learn and improve our lesson. In the preparation of our lesson, we had to correct and do all over again some exercises, which helped us correct some mistakes that could ruin the lesson and make students learn things in the wrong way. When we presented our lesson, we faced some minor problems that were solved almost immediately. A lesson will never be perfect. What we can do is learn from all these mistakes to improve our future teaching. Also, even though this lesson was not that realistic in the sense of having 4 teachers to teach an 80 minutes lesson, which we will not do in the future, it helps us understand that we will have to deal with other teachers from other subjects, and that trying to come to a consensus will always be difficult, no matter the subject that will be taught. We all have to be tolerant of others' opinions and accept that our way of working might not be the best in some situations.
Okay, so well, at the beginning, I forgot to introduce myself. So it's just in any case, I'm Emerson Castillo. And well, in this part, I'm gonna be talking about what can we improve. So, well, we have our pros and cons, and taking into account the feedback received from the professor and classmates, we can decide how we can improve our lesson. In our opinion, a key point to make this lesson a better and more effective experience is to implement more interactive and technological elements to enhance the activities presented. Now, a problem with this is that the internet is such a vast ocean of information that one can certainly get lost in it if not handled properly. It's incredible, but it's true. So before I give some insights on how we would like to change the lesson, I like to mention first about digital minimalism. So let me enter. And well, I quote Cal Newport that defines it as a philosophy of technology use in which you focus your online time on a small number of carefully selected and optimized activities that strongly support things you value, and then happily miss out on everything else. So, well, as educators, it is important for us to know what can work in our classroom and what cannot. Therefore, it is important to know how to differentiate valuable material from useless sources. So to get the most out of technology, and especially of the internet, digital minimalism is a great way to accomplish it. Well, to do so, teachers can follow these two principles that are here. Just two pieces of advice to get the best of the internet. So the first one is there will always be more. Technology is endlessly evolving. So as educators, we should find what works for us and we should put aside the rest. For sure, it is important to keep up updating our materials with new ones because, well, we like that and so do our students. But we don't have to get obsessed about having the latest or best materials. The second one is you'll never have it all. Just as in life, we cannot get everything we want. So as in the last point, it is important to know what we need and of course what we have and how we plan to use those materials if we want to teach effectively. Okay, so to get started, I'll first analyze the overall lesson and the feedback we got from the classmates and the professor, as I said at the beginning. And well, as the overall lesson, the classmates said, well, we got 5 responses, and my classmates had already explained. And we got first one that said that it was a bit boring, another one that it was just okay, and 3 thought that it was good. So it was effective and liked by the students and the professor, but nonetheless, the first problem we encounter is the fact that for some students it was boring. This aspect goes hand in hand with the materials used, and as you can see here, well, we got 2, a 40% for extremely useful, a 20% very useful, another 20 not so useful, and well, another actually was 40% as well of not so useful. So well, for some of our classmates, the material weren't that good. So a solution that we thought would certainly help us to improve the effectiveness of the activities and the participation of the students is by using gains that check on the students' learning. And we know that nowadays there's a big catalog of educational gains to choose from. For instance, the page here that you can see it, activity, offers a lot of options to assess the students' learning, such as a bowling game in which students can take a quiz while playing. Another game is about climbing a mountain while taking a quiz. And the good thing of this material is that, well, this kind of material can help the students to get motivated and to make an effort to accomplish the tasks. So for instance, this could have worked pretty well for our reading activity, because instead of using the Google Forms that we used, we could have just used some game to assess the students' learning. Now, in regard to instructions and time allotted, everything well, perfectly well, we could say. And just a few changes had to be made. As Katherine explained, with our planning, we had some problems at the beginning, but for next time, it's clear for us that when planning, we have to specify the time it takes for dealing with every single material used, as well as taking into consideration some unexpected events that may happen, as it usually happens in the classroom. With the instructions, we just have 40% that of people that said that it was very clear, and the other people, they said that it was overall really clear. With time allotted, as you can see, everything was perfect, 100% understandable. Now, moving on, and regarding the doubts, well, we got an 80% that was good and 20% that was well. So for this, we strived for answering any questions as soon as possible and as clear as possible, but still there were some difficulties with reaching some students when they had questions. So a good solution we can see is using a faster and more accessible platform like WhatsApp in order to avoid any delay. And finally, there's the activities. So, well, the activities were mostly perceived as really easy activities. And I mean, we knew we were planning for 7th graders, so we weren't supposed to design a class that was too advanced for the students. So to enhance the activities, we considered that implementing more technological and interactive materials would challenge more the students to practice the content studied. For example, sessions of real-time interaction for the students to practice the information learned can help to promote collaborative work among the students. And this would certainly benefit the students because they can learn from their peers, they can get feedback, and they can enjoy it more than just doing it by themselves. So as you can see, well, for our activities here, we got a 40% of extremely good, 20% very good, and 40% somewhat good. And as I said, kind of a problem that we had is that the activities weren't that hard. So for difficulty, well, we got 60% not so difficult, 20% well, extremely difficult, and another 20% on not difficult at all. The overall lesson was 80% good and 20% excellent. I'm sorry. And we're proud of what we did, for sure. But for sure, we know that we have to improve. And as Katherine said, the important thing is not to be perfect, but to keep improving and doing our best in order to be good teachers. So, well, to wrap up all this information about how we can change our lesson, it is clear that, well, the technology may offer us endless options. As I said, with the vast ocean, well, yeah, the internet being a vast ocean, and we can engage our students and make them learn in the best way possible by using these sources and technology that we have nowadays. So to finish this part, I just would like to mention the quote of George Couros that says, "Technology will not replace great teachers, but technology in the hands of great teachers can be transformational. So, well, in this case, for us to improve our lesson, we must look for more interactive and new ways of approaching the students with what they like the most. And we know that that is technology.
How would we teach our lesson again? Now I am going to talk about the way we would teach our lesson again. I am going to present two new lesson plans. One is online and the other one is on-site. I am going to compare them to the actual online class we prepared and presented. Also, the second online class is going to be in Edmodo. The main difference regarding the role of the teacher is that in the online classes, the teacher was or is available on specific hours to answer the students' questions, and these hours do not have to be on class time specifically. In the on-site class, the teacher is available for questions during the whole class. First, the warm-up. This activity lasted 5 minutes in our online class and is going to last 5 minutes too in the new online class and in the on-site class. Okay, in our online class, the students had to watch a video where they had to identify some sounds related to daily routines. In the new online class, the students are going to watch a 5-minute video about the daily routine of a child, and then they have to take notes. In the on-site class, the students are going to be divided in groups of 5. Per group, the teacher is going to give them some cards with actions related to daily routines. For example, wake up, eat lunch, go to sleep. The students, one by one, have to act these actions, and the other participants have to guess which action it is. The next activity is prior to main activities. This activity lasted 12 minutes in the online class and is going to last also 12 minutes in the new online class and in the on-site class. In our online class, the students had to watch a video to learn the correct use of the simple present tense in negative and affirmative sentences, in yes/no questions and in WH questions, and also the correct use of adverbs of frequency and vocabulary. In the new online class, the same activity is going to be used. We decided not to change it because we think it is really important that the students understand the grammar topic before practicing writing and saying out loud their daily routines. Also, before reading and listening to audios, videos, and readings about the topic. In the on-site class, in this case, the simple present tense in negative and affirmative sentences, yes/no questions, and WH questions, and the correct use of adverbs of frequency and vocabulary are going to be taught to the students, but this time they are not going to watch a video, but the teacher is going to explain this topic to the students. Now we have the listening activity. This activity lasted 15 minutes in our online class and will last also 15 minutes in the new online class and in the on-site class. In our online class, the students had to watch and listen to a 2-minute song about someone's daily routine. Also, the students had to answer a few questions after watching and understanding details and major ideas of a 2-minute video. In the new online class, the students have to watch a video about the daily routine of a mom with 3 kids from the United States. This will last 7 minutes. In the next 8 minutes, they have to draw the whole routine and then upload the drawing to the platform. In the on-site class, the students have to hear a 4-minute dialogue about two students talking about their daily routines during COVID-19. This audio is going to be repeated 2 times. Then students are going to complete a true or false handout about the dialogue. The next activity is the writing activity. In our online class, this lasted 15 minutes. In the new online class and in the on-site class, this will going to last also 15 minutes. In our online class, the students had to create a daily routine of 5 to 10 sentences using a character of their choosing, from the ones presented in the activity. They had 4 options of characters from different English-speaking countries. The images had the information about the characters such as their age, their name, their nationality, their favorite food, info about their family, and their occupation. In the new online class, the students have to write a paragraph also of 5 to 10 sentences about their own daily routine before the virus starts. Then they have to upload it to the platform. In the on-site class, the students have to write 8 sentences following their daily routine during Sundays. Now we have the speaking activity. This activity also lasted 15 minutes in our online class and is going to last 15 minutes in the new online class and in the on-site class. In our online class, students had to describe orally their daily routine during quarantine through a WhatsApp audio using the correct form of the simple present tense. Students also had to record themselves as if they were having a phone conversation. This conversation could be, for example, with a friend or family. The students also had to use a voice recorder tool provided on Google Classroom to record themselves and then upload it successfully to share with other classmates and to receive feedback from the teachers. In the new online class, the students have to create a daily routine about a famous person they like. It could be a singer, a writer, an actor or actress, a musician, an athlete, a politician, etc. They have to imagine the daily routine of this person and record an audio telling this daily routine. Then they have to upload it to the platform. In the on-site class, students have to work in pairs and create a character. They have to give the character a name, a nationality, and an occupation. Then they have to create a daily routine for the character. This will last 10 minutes. In the last 5 minutes, 5 pairs that the teacher will choose are going to present the character and his or her daily routine. The next activity is the reading activity. Also, as we mentioned before in the speaking, listening, and writing activities, this lasted 15 minutes in our online class and is going to last 15 minutes in the new online class and in the on-site class. In our online class, students had to read a text related to daily activities. Following this task, students had to answer questions to assess their own understanding of the piece of writing. In the new online class, students have to also read a text related to daily routines, but this time to demonstrate their understanding of the text, they have to complete a transfer chart. In the on-site class, students have to read a text related to daily routines. And this time, the way they are going to show their understanding is by completing a graphic organizer. Finally, we have the final closure activity. This activity lasted 3 minutes in our online class and is going to last also 3 minutes in the new online class and in the on-site class. In our online class, the students had to watch a video and complete an online survey to give feedback on the lesson. In the new online class, we decided to keep this activity for this lesson too. And in the on-site class, the teacher is going to ask his or her students if they liked the class and if they have any complaints or suggestions.
Hi, I'm Oscar again, and I'm going to talk about concluding remarks, specifically the synthesis of our main points. Overall, we as a group received very positive feedback from both our peers and the instructor. We definitely received suggestions to improve our lesson and enhance the linguistic skills, reading and writing, speaking and listening, as well as our cultural skill. We understand that students have different learning styles, and therefore we think that one thing that could be beneficial is to create a survey for students prior to the asynchronous lesson in order to hear students' interests and opinions about the topic to cover and the way that they would like the lesson to be conducted. Considering the students' preferences and needs is a very important part of the students' learning and definitely makes a big difference when it comes to evaluating how successful a lesson could be, whether it is synchronous or asynchronous. We can say that we learned about time management, useful technological materials and resources available to us, lesson planning, and lesson designing. We also became much more knowledgeable about students' needs, especially seventh graders, and their current situations at home. We have more expertise on how to create videos and how to upload them to YouTube while making the necessary editing for these videos to be enjoyable and fun. We found ways to still connect with the students while teaching content and enhancing students' linguistic skills and cultural skills. Regarding weaknesses and difficulties in our asynchronous lesson, we might say that we had to rethink some of our exercises proposed to Professor Veronica in our lesson plan in order to make sure that the learning outcomes were achievable and had the appropriate timing for them to be completed successfully by the students. Lesson plans are a never-ending job, and they require constant feedback and modification. Therefore, we were extremely grateful with the feedback given to us, and we took the necessary measures and actions to change it whenever necessary. We also experienced some difficulty trying to come to agreements as a group as to what our lessons should be, under what format, what methodologies, platforms, and the development of the activities and materials. We used this difficulty and turned it into something positive, in which we learned from each other as colleagues and became tolerant of each other's opinions and ways of working. We definitely became a really good team. When it comes to improvements in our lesson, we noticed that there was a 20% of students who marked the lesson as boring, which wasn't our intention at all. We in fact devoted extra time of our own to make sure this was prevented. However, we're conscious that not everyone might find the methods and activities as dynamic as we thought they were, and everyone has their own learning styles and preferences. Nevertheless, this feedback was valuable, and we think that we could make use of other educational games available to us that are user-friendly and very entertaining. Reptivity is one of them, and we think that it could be a good idea to use it in our future asynchronous lessons, particularly to develop the reading skill. The lesson plan had to undergo a few modifications regarding timing for texts and videos to avoid any confusions. In addition, we think that having better ways to be in touch with students could avoid their dissatisfaction when it came to answering their doubts and questions. And lastly, we as current and future teachers had the opportunity to reflect upon our current situation with the coronavirus and how important technology is in this type of situation. Just as we reflected on that, we also became more aware about the fact that students nowadays experience difficulties with internet access and internet connection, as well as lack of access regarding technological resources available to them. These factors could make students drop out, and some of them might not be able to participate and continue their education as normal. They also might experience failing the courses. Our government and the Ministry of Education have been working very hard in order to find easy and feasible solutions to students and teachers, such as GTAs or self guides that students are required to complete to acquire the learning for each subject. That is something that we as teachers value, and we hope that more and more students have access to quality education. Finally, I wanted to end this synthesis by saying that overall, we as educators not also taught students a valuable lesson, and not only did they learn about daily routines and the correct use of simple present, but we also learned from them and this whole experience, and without a doubt, we feel much more prepared to face situations like this, when we might not only need to take our role as teachers seriously, but also to be prepared because education constantly evolves. There will always be education, but the ways to teach it, the methods, and the resources used to develop such education might change and transform. We had what we call a teachable attitude at all times, and this completely made this activity worth it.
Hello again. Now, what I want to explain is how this experience is different from others that we have had. First, here we have a table with the positive and negative things that we faced in our first teaching experience. Some of us had the chance to give our first class in the high school where we studied, which was a bonus, because some people knew us already. Also, students really wanted to get involved with the class's topic, and they were not noisy. It also helped us to understand that being a teacher was something that we liked, and that was the right place to be. Consequently, it helped us think and analyze which type of teacher we wanted to be in the future. Even though our first experience teaching was incredibly positive, there were some not so positive things. First, it was quite intimidating, and it made us feel nervous because we did not know how things were going to work out. Also, even though the majority of the students enjoyed the class, some others don't, and there was a possibility of having those ones distracting the learners that were really participating. Additionally, standing all the time in front of the class, regulating the voice tone, and maintaining students' attention were some other things that we didn't know how to control in the first time, but now we know how to do it. Now, this experience that we had in these weeks, when we talked an asynchronous lesson, we noticed that, of course, it was very different from the first one that we had. But the positive thing from this is that we could learn from it. Using technological resources and online materials for our classes is something that teachers are not used to do. But now we know how to do it, in case we have to do it in the future. We have experienced giving classes mostly by individual tutorials, and we agree that we prefer giving classes in person, because in that way, we can interact and get to know the students that we have in the class. But we also agree that we have to adapt to the current situation around the world. With this experience, we could improve and become better educators.
Okay, Professor. So, well, before I start with the conclusion, I would like to let you know that, well, in my part of how we can improve our lesson, I mentioned regarding the clarifying doubts that it would be a good idea to use WhatsApp. The problem is that we did use WhatsApp. The thing is that I didn't specify that. What I meant is that, well, for instance, we got some questions from our classmates, but they asked us through the Google Classroom or by mail. So we didn't specify that they could ask us questions through WhatsApp. So that was basically my point there. Now, well, here to part of our conclusion, or the final conclusion actually, is about online learning. And well, the most critical challenge of this methodology is the digital divide. Because, well, in several countries, as well as including Costa Rica, there's a significant gap between those from privileged backgrounds and those from disadvantaged backgrounds. So some students without reliable internet access and technology, they struggle to participate in digital learning, and thus they have more difficulties when learning online. So, well, this is why it is important for us as teachers to take into account these people that have issues with connecting online, so that we can, or we plan activities that involve these students. And also, we for sure have to make sure that we take into consideration the materials that they currently have access to, so they can actually learn something. Well, fortunately, now with the GT8, is a great tool that is going to help, and that is probably helping already a lot of students with these issues regarding problems with connectivity. And now, regarding with the effectiveness of online learning, there's evidence that online learning can be more effective in a number of ways, especially for those with access to the right technology. And according to the World Economic Forum, students retain 25% to 60% more material when learning online, compared to only 8% to 10% in a classroom. This is mostly due to the students being able to learn faster online and at their own pace, because, well, e-learning requires from 40% to 60% less time to learn than in a traditional classroom. So, well, to sum up, it is clear that, well, now that the situation of the COVID-19, or COVID-19 actually came to stir things up, everyone has experienced some sort of significant change. Several areas have been impacted, have impacted actually education, and providing a similar or better method that provides students with enough abilities to face the working world is the fundamental challenge that education currently has. So to finish this presentation, I would like to finish it with this quote that's from Jordan Peterson that says, "To master a new technology, you have to play with it." So as I mentioned, the internet is literally a vast ocean of information. So as professors, educators, we should learn how to navigate this internet and how to use it properly, so as to get the most out of the internet especially. So it's really important to know how to use it, and not for our benefit, but for sure for the benefit of the students. So hopefully we can learn a lot with this current situation of COVID-19. And this is the end of our presentation. We hope that you like it. And well, that's it for this presentation. So bye-bye.